charge, unfortunately. Stop looking for leaders.
Starting to believe everything you need in life, somebody's got. And if you don't know those people, then they will keep a hold of it, and it will be a struggle to access it. Because I'm going all the way now.
Well, you mentioned something really interesting there. You said we can be born into a hospital environment and we get told we're going to die, right? Because of the surroundings.
To another level.
So unless people do some sense of creating boundaries and finding their no voice around people that they obviously can't get away from in proximity because they're family, you can't just say, well, that's great with people at work and my social circle, but I'm afraid I have to just put it with in my family. No, you don't.
Guys, welcome to another episode of the $1 Million Branders podcast. Today's guest is such an incredible soul. He is so heartfelt, and it's truly a blessing to have him on the show, and I'm so grateful. Paul Scanlon, and I'll give him an introduction. Paul is a seasoned public speaker with over 40 years of experience captivating audiences around the globe. That's how I found him. His expertise spans diverse realms, including communication, leadership, cultural engineering, and self-awareness. Throughout Paul's illustrious career, he has earned a reputation as more than just a speaker. He's an awakener, a liberator, and a beacon of light for those who seek guidance globally. With a knack for simplifying even the most complex concepts, he's been held a soul GPS, which definitely he is, a merchant of hope, and a catalyst for my favorite thing, transformation. Driven by a profound why, Paul's mission is very clear: to awaken individuals to their true authentic selves. He is passionately committed to empowering both individuals and organizations to thrive across all aspects of life. Paul, it's an honor to have you on the show today. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you. I'm so impressed with what I wrote about myself.
Well, I think you need a few movies about yourself, actually. I've been watching, and like, your content is incredible, guys. If you haven't followed Paul on social media, you have to. But Paul, you recently marked your 67th birthday. I don't think you look like it at all. So you're going to have to share some
Thank you.
secrets to the aging process. But
and there's no filters on this video, this is real.
Pure natural. I love it. We only do natural on the show. But
Right.
I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of background about yourself. And then also, I would love for you to share your top 10 life lessons you've learned through aging gracefully, as you have.
Well, I committed in my early 40s. I think 40 is the time when the free ride of youth is over. So I think around 40, your body starts to tell you, and your mind starts to tell you, I think, and your relational world starts to tell you that you can't rely on defaulting to flourishing. No one ages well by default. So I determined in my late 30s, early 40s to commit to aging well, not least because the people around me that were older than me, that were mentors, were not aging well. And I didn't want to finish up repeating their patterns of life and behavior. And I determined that I would age well in a holistic way. This language wasn't present back then like it's more mainstream now. So obviously aging well physically is an obvious one for everybody, but I didn't want to just look after myself physically, because I knew so many people that did that, but internally were not well. They went to the gym for their body, but didn't go to any emotional gym or any mental health gym. So I wanted to age well in 5 areas: physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and generationally. And I've been doing that, for 25 plus years now. And so to be 67 and now reaping the benefits of that in my life, internally and externally, I'm glad I made that commitment then, because most people, as I think we know, are dying way ahead of their time through lifestyle-related problems. So they didn't make choices in younger years. And so they couldn't reap any benefit of those choices in. So it's too little too late often when people get into problems in their health, physically, mentally, emotionally. So I'm glad I put the work in and still am every single day, like some of our listeners are, I guess. It's worth it. No one slaps you on the back. No one supports you. No one says, yeah, go for it. Every day I jump into my ice bath. No one's there applauding me for doing that. I have a gym at home. Using my home. No one's there saying, yay, yay, yay. So on the days when you're relying on that and it's not there, you have to keep going. And if you're battling things in your life while you're trying to keep growing, it can be even more of a difficult thing to push through. So I'm glad I committed to those habits years ago to age well in a holistic way. And I think the internal work to do that, Justine, is more difficult than going to the gym, because at least for the gym, you see a response. You look in the mirror, you think, oh, that looks better. But it's not as easy to do that with your mental or emotional health.
Oh, so true. I cannot agree more. And I love that you're mentioning this, because I know we're in May, which is Mental Healthness Awareness Month globally.
Yeah.
So what are some tips for someone who is, struggling? Because I love what you say, where you mentioned you'll find healing when you tell your ego to lower its voice and to go sit in a corner while you ask your pain important questions. So what pivotal questions should we pose to our pain to facilitate personal growth and allow us to reach the next level of us?
I think everybody knows the word ego, but they don't know what it is. So when I post about the ego, where people perhaps aren't aware of it beyond it's a word. And so years ago, again, to age well in my life internally and understand my internal ecosystem, I wanted to understand this thing called the ego. What I've discovered is the or bad, but it doesn't default to good without management. So though the ego is or bad, it's not on your side without leadership and management and some element of control towards the ego. So I realized that the ego in all of us, everybody has an ego. The ego in all of us is a pre-programmed identity that you were not involved in creating, because it begins from and before birth. The ego flourishes and hides itself in labels and badges that are put on us before we're born. So even before you're born, to be born male or female is a badge and an identity. To be born black or white is a badge and an identity. To be born in a certain nationality, you're born English or you're born German or you're born American, that is another layer of identity. And then you're born into a certain maybe political ideology, or you're born into a war zone, or you're born into a degree of poverty or prosperity or whatever. So you're born into a lot of things that are generational, if you like, egoic labelings that you are hijacked with from birth. And then when nurture gets a hold of us, of who you are supposed to be gets out of control. None of us know that. So what we do know is we get into our, I suppose, teenage years, adolescence and beyond, and begin to wrestle with parts of us that we don't know where they came from. We just don't like things about us, but we don't know what to call it or how to get help. And this is classically what leads to what's known around the world as a midlife crisis, when people realize in their middle life, I've not lived my life. I'm not who I always wanted to be. And then make sort of often rash, knee-jerk, impulsive decisions to kind of break company with who they don't want to be. And it's not done well. It's a reaction. And I think this is because people are waking up to realize that, without the language for it perhaps, that my ego has been in the driving seat of my life so far. And I want to take my life off autopilot and fly my life manually but I don't know how to do that. And what a lot of what you do and what I do is helping people figure out what are the manual control options for
Yes.
living life on your terms rather than autopilot ego terms. And so I've been doing that now for, as I mentioned earlier, 25 years. I'm getting better at articulating it and explaining it to people so that others can participate in that discovery. And so when I talk about silencing the ego to pay attention to pain, the job of the ego is to protect you from pain. Anything that comes into our lives that is painful, the ego's job is to explain it away. The ego's job is to make sure you don't get curious, because curiosity is the greatest threat to the ego. Curiosity will take you away from the control of the script that the ego has decided is the script for your life. So when you get curious about your pain, the ego's volume increases. And the ego says, no, hang on a minute. There's nothing to learn here. There's nothing to change about you here. This is not your fault anyway. It's not true what they said about you. It justifies you away from being curious about pain. And what I've realized in my life is that pain is like a traveling professor. Pain knocks at everyone's door. And I use the metaphor of pain as a professor because to me, pain is this thing in life that is looking for students, like a professor. And if you'll sit with pain and let it in and let it teach you and ask it questions like, ask Professor Pain questions like, why have you chosen me? Have we met before? What are you trying to teach me? Is this a lesson that I have ignored before and now it's come back in a reinforced way? I would ask pain, are you traveling alone? Are you with others? And what are the others you're traveling with that are trying to say something to me? I would also ask pain, are you my pain? Or are you someone else as close to me that I love? And I can't separate out their pain from mine. As I let you in, if it is a pain that is come by proximity to someone else in pain who I'm over functioning towards, and I have got confused between their pain that matters to me, but it's actually not my pain. These are some of the questions I think are worth asking and interrogating your pain about. I think there's growth somewhere in those questions. Yeah.
Oh, a ton of growth. I'm blown away. And I'm so glad that I'm meeting you now in my 30s, because I think you've just fast forwarded me many, many years. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you're taking notes if you're listening to this. Something I really resonate and that I absolutely love is your attitude. Like when you speak about taking responsibility mostly for yourself, obviously in other wording, but you said, I believe in the concept of generational legacies, not curses. How does one transform a generational legacy from a curse into a conscious choice?
I think, and I want to be aware here that there is so much tragedy in the world.
Yes.
To be born today in Palestine or in Ukraine or in multiple troubled areas in the world historically, to be born in that situation and finish up in your childhood in a refugee camp and so on and so on, that is a generational problem. It's not going to get solved in a week. So when I speak to you, when I'm doing this in the Western world, I'm aware that's not all the world.
Yes.
And I'm aware that these podcasts and things that I post are seen by people in parts of the world who, when they see me talking like this about pain, for instance, or whatever, may say, that's okay for you. You don't have the pain that I have. So when I answer your question about pain, I'm aware of, and my answer's still the same. But I'm aware that they may feel this doesn't apply to me, so keep scrolling or turn off the podcast. But it's not true. And I say that to say to you that when I'm answering these questions, I'm so aware that generationally people do feel cursed.
Yes.
People do feel trapped in a generational cycle and spiral that hijacks their life. I get that.
Yes.
I still want to say to these people, and I've met these people all around the world that have come from, as some of your background you explained to me, from trauma and trouble in South Africa, that in your adult life, if I'd have met you back then in your trauma and trouble, you may have felt, well, it's okay for you, you're not dealing with what I've dealt with in my family. But I still want to say to people, and you, Justine, are a model of this idea, that it is completely and consumed and defined by something that happened in your past or in your generational past, then are we all just to surrender our hope? Are we to surrender possibilities? Are we to give up on potentials and ideas and dreams because I am generationally born into a deck of cards stacked against me? That can't be where we leave the story. It can't be where we surrender our dreams because I was born in the wrong part of the world. I was born in the wrong skin color. I was born in the wrong demographic. We can't surrender humanity's possibilities to that idea. So I still would say a better idea is this: rather than believe and surrender to the idea of generational curses or generational traumas, why not wake up to the idea of generational choice possibilities? That our lives are not governed by various degrees of PTSD. There are other options beyond, and there is some research in America in recent years of not PTSD, but PTSG, post-traumatic stress growth.
Wow.
Rather than trauma.
Love that.
And so I think I'm interested in that school of thinking. So to all of our listeners that are listening, or to people that are not here, that our listeners love and care about, who wish were here hearing this, I want to say to all of you guys that your life is not governed by what happened upstream of you. That you get to make a choice, however small, and start small, however small and micro your choice feels today, to recover something of your independence and autonomy. However small that feels, do it today, because these small incremental choices we make and can make change the trajectory of your life. Everybody gets to have those choices. And I know it doesn't feel like you have any choice. And maybe don't start big, start small, because those small things that you can make choices about are the beginnings of taking your life out of this sense of what has been called learned helplessness. What I feel helpless here, many people in hospitals die because the whole environment of the hospital tells them you've come here to die. And many people in troubled parts of the world say, my life has no hope and prospects. So I would say, yes, your life does have hope and prospects. Start small, but begin today. That's why I had that message of generational choices, not curses.
I love that. And I'm so glad that we're speaking about that in this podcast. But I want to say to you, thank you for not just being motivational, thank you for being aspirational and inspirational, because I know you've also had your challenges, and we need more people to stand up and speak about this. And you're absolutely doing this. And I think when you are around people, you mentioned something really interesting there. You said we can be born into a hospital environment and we get told we're going to die, right? Because of the surroundings. And it brings me to people and your alignment with people and places and opportunity. Hey guys, so if you are enjoying this episode, if you have gotten value from this episode and it has changed your life by teaching you things, I'm going to ask you a huge favor. If you would subscribe, like, follow, and share with people so we can bring more incredible guests to the Million Dollar Branders podcast to serve you better, so you can make more money in your business, in your life, and accelerate your growth into becoming the $1 million brand that I know is possible for you. Thank you, and my greatest appreciation to you. How, as an entrepreneur or a person, would you make sure that you are resonating and attracting the right people into your life? And how do you avoid the bad people in your life?
Well, for me, it's come from finding my own true north, I suppose, internally, and committing to be true to that best version of me. I know we're all evolving. None of us are complete. But to find what your fundamental values are and what matters to you most, what lights up your soul.
Love that.
What gets you out of bed in the morning, what you love doing. All of these things are your internal map of meaning, I suppose, that set some degree of gravitational pull towards the things that are meant for you. And at the same time, they create a gravitational resistance, I suppose, to things that are not for you. And I think I've never been a hustling type energy person. I see that in people, especially in the West.
Yes.
This high energy hustle thing, and I get that, and I the Tony Robbins type vibe. I get that. I admire that in people like Tony, and I've often thought, am I missing out? Am I not as successful as I could be? Am I not monetizing my life enough because I don't have that alpha male hustle kind of energy? And should I do more of that, for instance? But because that feels so foreign to me, I know I can't bolt it on. I can't sustain it. It just feels fake to me. So I let that go years ago as an option for my life. And so been around those energies and around those people and around those ideas and around opportunities that expected me to be like that. I had to let them go. I didn't align with them. I didn't say yes. I didn't respond to the invitation or be around those people. So I think for people listening and watching, they have to realize that this is who I really am and am becoming. And I don't think those people, those energies, those ideologies, those beliefs, those opportunities, and so on are a good fit for me. It doesn't mean you can't spend a bit of time in those spaces, or you can't have some input in those spaces, or you can't learn from those areas and people. But it means that it will not be part of your native environment in which you flourish as a human in your life. Figure those out and avoid those and go towards those that are the opposite of those, that do align with you, do light you up, and do assist your progress and your evolution.
I love that so much. I feel like this is just the best interview to launch for Mental Health Awareness Month. And I love how you focused on the gravitation towards doing what you love, because I'm a big believer in energy, and I think like attracts life. And I think energy is crucial in relationships, as you are big on, but both in life and business. I love how you compared energy and people to an ATM. Basically, you said you were comparing it to transactions in a friendship. And can you delve into the dynamics of emotional deposits and withdrawals? Because I think this is so important, both in life and business.
I think the ATM thing, Justine, is my attempt to that metaphor to make complex things simple, as you mentioned earlier in the bio I wrote about myself.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
You know, people often ask me, how did I get into communication? How did I know I wanted to be a communicator? And my answer has become, honestly, when I was much younger, I would watch TV shows or listen to politicians or people that were in the medical sphere or school teachers at school who made complicated things more complicated. And I thought, why the hell doesn't anybody understand that none of us know what they're talking about? And so it made me feel that so many things in life, politics, business, money, health, medical stuff, it made me feel that all these things were going to always be beyond people like me and beyond ordinary people's reach. And I think that was part subconsciously of my wanting to think, you know what? I'm going to take that complicated thing and I'm going to wrestle with it, research it, and I'm going to try and make it really accessible to everybody. And so one of my hallmarks of communication, I suppose, has become intentionally that I am going to take a complicated thing and I'm going to say it really simple, really short, really well. So the ATM idea of that human beings and relationships and friendships, if you think of them as an ATM place where there's withdrawals going on all the time, and if you're in relationships where people are all the time taking energy out of you, making an ATM energy withdrawal, making a friendship withdrawal, a support and encouragement and be there for me withdrawal, if they're making a compassion, empathy withdrawal, if they're making a counsel, wisdom, advise me, help me withdrawal, but they're never putting anything in, then that person is going to be the one that exhausts your ATM emotional, mental well-being resources. And you cannot sustain those relationships in your life. So I say to people, you need to do an audit regularly of the people in your life that you have given the PIN code to for your ATM. If you have given people your friendship ATM PIN code, are they constantly typing it in and sending you a message on WhatsApp or texting or whatever, and they're constantly withdrawing from you, not just in proximity, but they can do it anywhere in the world 24/7, and it's killing you, and I've had people like that, then if you don't edit that, stop that, then you are going to be killed, drained dry. And when things really matter to you, need you to reach into your ATM, you won't have it. When you really want to step up in a possibility, an opportunity, when you really want to do well in a job interview, or you have an important day at work, or you're involved in a massive financial opportunity and deal that you're involved in, or you really need this conversation to go well today, and you show up drained and exhausted emotionally and mentally because you have these emotional vampires that are sucking the life out of you and you're not dealing with it, then this, on any given day, this can cost you an opportunity that could have been life-changing. Because you weren't your best, you weren't present, you weren't on your A game, because all the people that are draining you don't care about you being on your A game. They just want you to make sure they're on their A game.
It's so
true. In recent years, I have become much more intentional about auditing friendships. And one of the best things to ask everybody, by the way, one of the best things to ask, you asked me, Justine, what do we ask pain? That's a good auditing question about pain. But a good auditing question about relationships and friendships for your mental and emotional health is, don't just ask, how much do I like this person? But ask, how much do I like me? around this person.
Wow. That's
You know,
absolutely.
if they don't bring out a great version of you all the time, then why the hell are they so close in your life? It means they shouldn't be. Put them further away from your life and bring other people closer that do have that effect on you.
Oh, I feel like you just burnt a hole in the podcast. That was so good. And I think like it's so important, especially being mental health. We all have those people in our life. So that audit is, my gosh, that is so valuable. Thank you so much. And
Yeah, and
yes.
I think Justine, when it's family, I get a lot of comments when I do these posts about, but what if it's your spouse or your kids or your mother or whatever? And what they mean by that is, do you have another idea? Because clearly that doesn't work there.
Mm,
And in the same way I said, I'm talking about generational pain, and I am talking to people born in Palestine. I need to be able to say to those people, this means you too have an option for your life. Maybe not today, but lean into the possibility of that. I want to say to people that are listening that say, well, this doesn't work. I can't speak my mind to my mother or to my kids or to my brother or sister. It 100% has to be there, and it has to start there. So unless people do some sense of creating boundaries and finding their no voice around people that they obviously can't get away from in proximity because they're family, you can't just say, well, that's great with people at work and my social circle, but I'm afraid I have to just put it within my family. No, you don't.
And I think so many of us feel guilty because we are saying yes, but we should be saying no. So
100%.
thank you so much for highlighting that. Like I'm sure many people are listening to this, taking a very deep breath out right now. So thank you so much for that. And Paul, if we can touch on masks, because I think in today's times, everyone wears a mask. It's become just part of society. I think everyone, even on Instagram, you know, you see people taking photos and then you see like off Instagram, on Instagram. So I think it's so important to be your authentic self. I mean, this has been the most incredible conversation. It's been a very vulnerable conversation, I think, but I would love to hear from you a little bit about masks, because I think this is such an important lesson. And how does one actually, you know, give themselves the confidence to just be who you are, to unmask yourself when we are in a world that, you know, there are a lot of vultures and, you know, you get the social media trolls and whatever it is. It's like you can't just switch off. So how do you embrace your real authentic self and take off that mask?
Yeah, and this isn't a judgment conversation. As you said earlier, Justine, everybody wears masks to some degree. I'm not being unkind in that or judgmental. Everybody has to do what they have to do to navigate and negotiate their way through things in life. I think one of the big things that helped me years ago when I was studying psychology is that we all have two selves. We have what's called a social self and an essential self. The social self is who we were conditioned to be to fit in from birth. And I get that, nothing wrong with that. But your essential self, if you like, is who you would have been wherever you were born. If you were born 1,000 years ago in a different country, this is who you were meant to be, if you like, who God, if you like, intended you to be, or the universe, or whatever you believe. This is who you were intended to be, your essential self. And I think the balancing act in life is to, as you get older and get more confidence and secure in your identity and move away from the ego, as we said earlier, and live more from your soul, which is your essential self. That less masks, you wear less masks when you move from your base of identity and you show up in the world generally more often as the real authentic version of you. And what we do is I don't wear masks anymore now. I used to do them, but I think I wore masks because I was still not confident to be myself around certain people in certain situations. So I think I still had some degree of a mask. And I don't mean without masks. People are afraid without mask means I'm too vulnerable, I'm too open. Hell no, I'm not doing that. I don't mean that either. And I've done a lot of work and a lot of teaching on vulnerability, which has not come easy to me, especially as a man. It was never modeled in my family. And my father was a violent, alcoholic, abusive dad. And I never saw anything modeled to me of vulnerability in the males in my world, in my nurture. So I know for men, the idea of vulnerability and the idea of not having masks scares the hell out of them. So I don't mean a bad version of vulnerability and openness. I mean a version that suits you, a version that feels authentic to you. And it isn't to do with crying. I was made to feel bad as a man that if I wasn't crying when others felt I should, that I wasn't appropriately in touch with. And I thought, no, that's bullshit. There are many more valid expressions of vulnerability, like we've talked about. Showing up in the world as the real you is very vulnerable. Living from who you really are and want to be. Being vulnerable with your pain. Taking your life off autopilot and having some self-determination. All of that is as vulnerable as hell. Having an opinion about what really matters to you, finding your no voice, putting boundaries in your life, that's as vulnerable as hell. So vulnerability is far more nuanced and complex. So I think I'd say to people, lean into the discovery of who you really are. And the more you get comfortable in your own skin, the more you will be uncomfortable with masking that version of you. And take your time and let it be organic. Don't have any big, it's me. There's no big reveal needed here. Just gradually on a daily basis, think, you know what, today no one saw it. No one thanked me for it. But today, when I responded in that way over coffee to my friend, I know today that moment for me was me really showing up in a way that was authentic and unmasked. And I haven't done that before with that person. And no one may see it, but it's like that's these micro things that we do every day that are nudging us ever increasingly towards that becoming our norm.
Wow, how brilliant are you? I can't wait to see what you're going to do this year. Anyway, Paul, for my last question, what is $1 million brand to you?
I'm not sure what it is to me, apart from I studied brand years ago. And one of the things I realized about the flaws in brands is, and I was watching an advertisement on TV for, was it a shampoo? I think it was a shampoo. And in this shampoo that was aimed at women, it had a big selling point in the advert was, this shampoo contains amino peptide complex or something like that. To which, of course, I'm thinking, what the is that? And the bigger question is, why would I spend $3, $5 more for that brand? Because it has something you say my hair needs, but I don't know what it is. So that's not $1 million brand. And so around the world, we have got organizations, companies, political parties, whoever's selling their wares that think what matters to us is amino peptide complex type selling points. We don't care. What we care about is the benefits, not the attributes. So $1 million brand to me, whether it be your personal brand or a product you're selling or an idea you have, to me, what makes it $1 million isn't what you love about it, amino peptide complex, and the scientists and the people in white coats think that's an amazing thing. No one has it in their product. We don't give a shit. What we want to know is, what is the benefit of that to my hair? So I realize that in what I bring to the table, I have to focus on what is the benefit of my voice to you? Not what are the attributes of it, not what I think's good about it. And so when I buy a car, I don't care about all the technical jargon the salesman tells me. I want to know, is it economical? Is it cheap to maintain? Is it good on, gas consumption? Whatever the things are that matter to me as the consumer. rather than this has got state-of-the-art catalytic conversion. I don't care. So to be $1 million brand it is the $1 million brand if you convince me, if I have it, why is it beneficial to my life instantaneously when I start dealing with it, buying it, using it on my hair? What's the instantaneous gain to me? That's $1 million brand that focuses on benefits to the consumer, not the attributes that I'm obsessed with because I'm the guy in the lab that put it together. People that are putting out the product are so in love with their product, and this is what happens a lot with products. You get so in love with your product that you don't understand why we're not.
Yes.
We're not, because it's not meeting a need for us. We know that you love it. We don't care that you love it and that you created it and that you were up all night for 3 years creating it. We don't care. We want to know is, how does it benefit us? That's $1 million product and brand to me.
I feel like that's your new keynote, and that applies to personal branding too, because I think people love themselves a lot these days, which there's nothing wrong with it if you're focusing on other people, I think. But I just thought that's definitely one of the most interesting answers we've had on the show. I love the psychological tips. So I hope you guys were taking notes. And Paul, I'm so excited to not only meet you when you come to Australia, but also tell us a little bit about what you've got going on. How can people follow you? How can people take your courses or work with you?
People can find me at Paul Scanlon UK. That's my social media address, and I'm on all social media. So if people want to look me up there, they'll find out what I'm up to, and everything I'm doing is posted on there. Of course, paulscanlon.com is my website, so that should be plenty for people to find out what I'm up to.
Amazing. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for such an incredible interview, and it was an honor to have you.
You're welcome. It was a joy. Thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you.